Welcome to D2 Global News. Over the past few days, you've probably heard about the 30-day ceasefire proposed by the US, right? It sounds simple: pause the fighting for 30 days. Save lives. Reduce suffering. Sounds humanitarian and noble, doesn't it? But Putin doesn't see it that way. Why? Because he's not the type to take things at face value like some of our rather peculiar politicians. Instead of giving a straightforward, "Okay, I agree," Putin chose to throw three thought-provoking questions back at the US. Question number 1. Does a ceasefire actually lead to lasting peace? At first glance, you might think Putin is some philosopher from Siberia. But really, he's just asking a fundamental question. Does a ceasefire address the root cause of the conflict? Or is it just a temporary band-aid? Essentially, he's asking, "Hey America, are you playing games here? Or do you actually want peace?" Question number 2. Will Ukraine use this time to prepare for another battle? If you're Ukrainian, this question might make you scratch your head in frustration. Seriously? The US offers a deal. And now Putin is turning the tables like this? But what Putin is really asking is quite straightforward. Let's be honest. Will you allow Ukraine to rearm and regroup during the ceasefire? Question number 3. How do you monitor a ceasefire along a 2.000 kilometers frontline? This one feels like a tough math problem. If you were in charge of overseeing the ceasefire, how would you do it? The Russian military currently holds the upper hand, but Putin's question is valid. How do you prevent a ceasefire from turning into a cat-and-mouse game on the battlefield? By now, you've probably noticed something. Putin isn't giving direct answers. He's playing chess. His questions might sound like they promote peace, but in reality, they're a strategic move. He's not looking to solve the problem. He's shifting the responsibility onto the US essentially. He's saying, "I'm not against peace, but I want you to answer these 3 questions first." And like any seasoned strategist, Putin doesn't just sit in an office making statements. No, he takes action. He recently made a high-profile visit to Kursk, a key region where the Russian military is in a dominant position. This visit sends a clear message to the world. Look, I have the military power. I'm in control, and I'm negotiating from a position of strength. Of course, you don't always get the chance to put on a military uniform and flex your political muscles. Right? But visiting Kursk in full military attire is a calculated move, to remind the world that Russia is not weak and that Putin is not someone who backs down easily. This is all part of his bargaining strategy for future negotiations. Ever since the war began, tensions between Russia and the US have been unavoidable. But here's the interesting part: despite their constant clashes, they still need each other. Do you really think Putin will ignore the US just because of a few unanswered questions? Absolutely not. Even though he's putting the ball back in America's court, the reality is that both nations rely on each other to address major global issues. Make no mistake, Putin may not be outright rejecting the ceasefire, but he's maneuvering to ensure any deal favors Russia. The US must clarify the terms of the ceasefire without giving Putin a reason to walk away from the table. And then there's Russia and China, the so-called golden duo in global politics. They work together extensively, but here's the catch: they still don't fully trust each other, especially when it comes to agreeing on a common currency for trade. They may be economic partners, but at the core, their trust is still fragile. It's the kind of issue that likely makes both Putin and Xi Jinping sigh whenever they discuss it. In reality, even if the US and Russia agree on a ceasefire, everything is still in a 50-50 balance. Both sides have their own interests, and without a strict monitoring mechanism, this agreement could easily become nothing more than a worthless piece of paper. Furthermore, Russia still needs the US to sustain its economy and military influence. So, will Russia go all in against the US, or will it continue playing a game of push and pull diplomacy? Final thoughts. At the end of the day, while Putin might not fully agree to the ceasefire, his strategy is crystal clear. Everything remains in delicate balance, and his questions force everyone to rethink their next move. Negotiations will continue, and no one can predict with certainty what will happen next. But one thing is for sure: nothing is ever simple in international politics, especially when nuclear superpowers like Russia and the US are involved. Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this situation? Leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. See you next time.